My PCs have just been awarded a castle by their king for their heroic deeds. But I haven't got the foggiest idea on what to do with it now that they've got it. How can I make it interesting, or make them want to go back to it, or even care about it? What to do?
This week's episode is sponsored by Epic Battlemaps Volume 1, which is a giant collection of over 30 fantasy maps, all with a 1-inch grid on them. Now, the maps were designed by me. That's right, this is one of my books, and they are meant to be the most common maps a DM needs when running their game. From rivers and forests to desolate bridges and wide-open beaches, from towns and markets to jungles and ships, it's all in here. In today's video, we talk about a castle. Well, there's a castle in the Epic Battlemaps book. You can use dry erase markers, combine multiple map books together to make even bigger maps, and it all folds away into a standard-sized map book to sit neatly on your bookshelf. Get your copy or copies today before stocks run out.
Hello and welcome to this week's video. It is what it is. It is 2023. I know it's been that for quite some time, but I always enjoy saying it. And I have to remind myself, of course, too, that it's no longer 2022 and life has moved on. What a year. All right, so what are we talking about? We're talking about making PC-owned structures interesting to own. I know it's quite niche. And if you don't understand why I'm talking about this video, it's a question that came up on our Suggest a Video topic on our Discord, discord.gg/greatgm. And someone was saying, well, I've got my PCs, they've got a castle, but I don't know how to make it interesting. They've got it. What do I do now? Well, this video is about that. It could be applicable to starships, space stations, minor little towns, manors, towers, giant castles, headquarters somewhere, an underground lair, depending on what genre or what system. This is applicable to all of them. Although I'll be using fantasy as I think it's the most accessible for all of us in terms of nomenclature. Bear with me, however. So, how do we do this? Where do we start? What do we look at? All right, hypothetically, let's start off on the premise that the player characters have just been awarded this castle, starship, whatever. I don't care what it is, but let's say that they've just got it. What do we do? We need to make sure that our player characters understand the space that they're in. And the best way to do that, especially if they've just been given it or if they've acquired it somehow, is to go through the following 3 steps, which I'll talk about in a moment. Now, why these 3 steps? Well, firstly, these steps are very tropey. These are very much what you would expect. You can do them in secret and sneaky ways and alter them in different ways and present them at different times to keep it interesting and to not look as if you are falling into the whole trope idea. So we talk about a beginning, a middle, and an end. In the beginning, when they first get their structure, when they first get whatever it is that they have, they need to secure it. And so when we look at securing the space that they have, there are 3 spaces that we can look at. We can look at the structure, we can look at the inhabitants, and then we can look at the surroundings. So structure, inhabitants, surroundings. When we come to the structure, this is where they discover a door that's blocked and no one knows where it goes to. It's sealed and there's a warning on it, and they break through and they discover some ancient evil in there. It could also be where, yes, you've inherited the castle, but the roof leaks horrendously. Or it's got an infestation, when we talk about inhabitants, of things that need to be removed. Or there's bugs or glitches in the system. These are things that are going to pose significant, immediate problems to the PCs. But you don't have to throw them at the PCs all at once. For example, when we're talking about securing the surroundings, the village that could be attached to this castle that the characters have got could initially be upstanding citizens who cheer that there's now a manor lord in the manor. Alternatively, over time, they might start to get disgruntled. Well, you've now had the castle for a year, but I don't see you protecting us from the raids outside. I don't see you encouraging trade. I don't see you doing sweet bugger all other than coming here every few moments whilst you, use the castle as a bank to store your stuff. You're not doing anything for us. It could be allaying those kinds of fears. So you don't have to play these all at the same time. The mysterious door, the collapsing roof, the stairwells that seem to lead to a blank space, shoring up a cliffside that collapses in the middle of a storm. These are things that you can throw in over time, but securing the structure should be something that is initially the main goal as the characters learn the space. Why? Because it drives the player characters around the structure. So often I've had characters go, they've done something great for the kingdom and they are awarded a castle, they move in and they go, okay, great, this is our castle, good, we're leaving, we're going somewhere else. Well, that's absolutely fine. They're obviously not particularly interested in the castle. But even when they are interested in the castle, they don't take the time to go and explore it.
That's all very good and well, but it sounds very much the same over and over and over and over. Is there more that we can add in? I mean, we know there's more because the video still goes on, but I have to say these things, otherwise I get beaten. It's true.
It is not just wash, rinse, and repeat those three things. We've seen that kind of stuff happening. If you watch Star Trek Deep Space Nine, or if you watch the ill-fated Stargate universe, they had these things cropping up across almost all of their seasons. In the case of Stargate universe, it was simply too much for the audience to bear. We got sick and tired of, oh, now you're running out of air. Oh, now you're running out of this. Oh, now you're running out of that. The entire premise of Battlestar Galactica, both versions, although specifically the reboot, was them exploring their starship and having issues. But they had more issues than just running out of resources and exploring strange areas of their ship. There was more to it. There was stuff happening within, without, and there was financial problems. Those are the next three that we want to add to our bag, which is all about keeping the location. So you've got it, now you got to keep it. So when we talk about issues without, these are threats from outside, invading armies, another baron who wants to take over the castle and feels that they should have been given the castle rather than the PCs. Anything along those lines will work. Something that is putting pressure on the outside. It could be an impending volcano, which looks as if it erupts, it's going to completely smother the castle and obliterate everything that the PCs have been working for. They go to the volcano and discover, well, actually it's just fire imps that are being a little bit overly zealous. You get the idea. Issues within are where you start turning towards those NPCs that are now working in said castle. This is not the vizier who is turning evil. I feel like viziers have had their day. They should now be looked at as the trusted advisors that they originally were when they were hired. This could be the cook, who wants to get revenge on the party because 6 months ago the party went into town, had a punch-up in the bar, and her son was beaten up and she wants to get some kind of revenge. So she's putting a laxative in all of the food that the castle is being served, and what is that doing? Well, that's blocking up the sewage, which is causing plague and disease to spread around the castle. It might not have been her intention, but it's certainly the outcome. You get the idea, though, by using the things that live within that castle to have issue with the castle. Again, it could be someone believes that their grandmother was walled up in the main wall of the castle and is picking it to pieces. Finally, we look at finances. How is the castle being paid for? How is it raising its money? This was a major problem for many, many, many Victorian families, which over time, those castles that used to be self-sufficient, that used to have lots and lots and lots of almost free labor in the form of serfs, suddenly weren't. And there were running expenses, and there were all kinds of issues that started to come in, which just simply made those places not profitable. So where is the money coming from? Is there trade? Is there someone who comes and wants to make a trade deal? That's a wonderful negotiation adventure for the party. They've got land, they've got crops, the other kingdom has land and has crops. It might sound like a bit of a yawn fest until someone is trying to sabotage the negotiations, or someone is trying to assassinate the negotiator and make it look as if it was the PCs so they can start a war. You can let your mind go crazy by just looking at this simple little step, finances.
That's 6 different things that we can have going on, and each one we can finesse and tweak and adjust. I like it. Okay. Final question. How do we make the castle or the starship or whatever, how do we make it feel as if it's alive, as if it's a living, breathing, changing space that is living and breathing and changing? How do?
Aha. So, I have done quite a few videos on the benefits of having NPC staff around. Your player characters are going to invest, your players are going to invest in these particular people. But when it comes to staffing your castle, to making your castle feel alive and as if it's a real thing, we again have 3 little options. I love to break things down into 3s. If you remember the channel way back when, it was always these kind of lists, right? So you have keeping staff, getting staff, and celebrating staff. Those are the 3 little subcategories that we talk about. Keeping staff, of course, you have staff who they're not disgruntled, they're not going to be causing issues, as we spoke about a little bit earlier. They're going to be, well, I've been offered a position, you see, and it's for the groundskeeper of a much bigger castle. I'd like to stay, but our grounds are not particularly interesting. They've got 14 different types of griffin, I tell you. Things along those lines. Little minor things. Or it could be, I'd love to stay, I rarely would, but unfortunately it's my son. You see, he went off and fought in the wars, and they lost him somewhere, his entire regiment swallowed up by a fog. I have to go and find him. I can't live with myself if I don't, so I'm handing in my resignation. I will no longer be able to cook and give your castle diarrhea. So the PCs have to go and find said son to bring said son back so the cook can remain making their rather liquid food. However you are going to keep those staff, that's entirely up to your player characters, and it's entirely up to you to give the player characters the opportunity to have these staffing kind of issues. Finding specific staff is equally fun. Well, you know those plows that we've been using for the fields that pave for this place? Well, they use a specific type of metal, which, well, quite frankly, our local blacksmith just can't keep, he doesn't know how to use it. It's a very unique dwarvish metal, or it's a very unique metal from a different country. We actually need to bring in someone who's an expert, or something along those lines. So the party now have to go and find this expert, this specialist, who they can then lure to the castle. Or a specialist comes, but doesn't want to stay, so then the party have got to convince them to stay. These are wonderful social adventures, where there's not a huge amount of stakes. Perhaps there's another noble trying to court this particular expert, and it's a bit of a tug of war. Again, you've watched this channel, you know how to turn these into adventures. So trying to find special staff could be really useful. Well, only a druid would know how to fix your Pegasus's cough. And the only druid that I know of lives on that there mountain, and you've got to climb to the top. It's a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful collection adventure just waiting to happen. You can do it. And then finally, celebrate. We need to celebrate. I cannot emphasize this enough. I did a whole video on festivals and why you should host them from time to time. A celebration is a great way to say, hey, players, your PCs are great. You guys have done great things. So let's celebrate. The PC day, we love the wizard day, or dress like a knight day. Have these little festivities. Please, my lords, we would love you to attend the festival of the first blossoming of the 3rd pink flower of the 5th tree. It's a very special occasion for the local area, and we would love you to be present so that you can clip that first flowering of this particular plant. It is poisonous and carnivorous, so it is a little bit of a risk, but every year we have someone doing it, and every year we manage to reattach their hand. I'm sorry, I'm obviously, I get excited when I'm talking about potential adventures, right? It's just what it is. So, whatever celebration or festival you are having, throw them in, and that will really bring the castle to life. Until next time, I want you to tell me about a structure that you gave your players and what you did to make that structure important to the players. And if it's too much, just list a location that you really would like to have if you were a player character and you were given your ideal space. Leave those in the comments down below. It's always lovely to see all of the different input that we have and we can put in. Until next time, hit that like button or the subscribe button if you haven't already done so. And as usual, thank you to all of our amazing patrons who really, really do keep the channel going, and to you for watching all the way until the end. Until next time, I wish you and yours the happiest of gaming.